Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we are going to be exploring some seriously mind-bending material, like ancient astronauts and hidden histories and even like the nature of reality itself. So we've got two really fascinating books to dig into for this one. We've got William Bramley's Gods of Eden, and then we've got Val Valerian's Matrix V, the Gold Edition. And then just to add a little extra spice, we're going to be looking at the Wes Panray papers as well. So
Yeah, it's really interesting how these books kind of like converge on certain ideas. Even though they explore very different aspects of the unknown. So we're gonna try to like tease out those common threads and see what kind of tapestry we can weave.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to dive in and see what connections we can find. So let's start with Bramley's Gods of Eden. He poses this really interesting question right off the bat. He says, okay, if UFOs are as common as some people believe, where's all the wreckage?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, he even crunches the numbers and says statistically we should be finding like crash saucers or, debris from these things way more often than we do.
It's not like people haven't been looking. There are whole organizations dedicated to finding this kind of evidence.
Exactly.
So where are the smoking guns?
Right.
And Bramley actually uses this really interesting historical incident to illustrate his point. It's called the Zond-Faye incident. Have you heard of this one?
I'm not sure.
So this was a Soviet space probe that re-entered the Earth's atmosphere in 1968. And get this, the visual effects of the debris falling back to Earth were actually mistaken by some people as a cigar-shaped UFO with windows.
Oh, wow. So it's like a, kind of a case of mistaken identity.
Exactly. And it really highlights how, eyewitness testimony in the UFO field can be so unreliable. I mean, people see what they expect to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Or their brains try to make sense of something unfamiliar by fitting it into existing category.
Right. Like, oh, I've heard of cigar-shaped UFOs.
Right.
Therefore, that must be what I'm seeing.
Right. Exactly.
Even if it's just, space junk re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many other UFO sightings could be explained by similar misinterpretations.
For sure. Okay, so Bramley takes this idea of missing evidence.
Yeah.
And kind of weaves it into this theory about a powerful secret society called the Brotherhood of the Snake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he claims that this group has been manipulating human affairs for centuries, distorting spiritual knowledge and influencing major events from behind the scenes.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, and he links this brotherhood all the way back to ancient Egypt, suggesting they were the puppet masters behind the pharaohs and the priests.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he even claims that their corruption ultimately led to the downfall of Egyptian civilization.
Wow.
But he doesn't stop there. He connects this same shadowy group to the Knights Templar.
The Knights Templar.
Yeah, fleeing to Cyprus after being accused of heresy.
Oh, right.
And, these knights were powerful.
Yeah, incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, and their sudden disappearance has always been shrouded in mystery.
Right. It's like they just vanished into thin air.
Exactly.
Right.
But Bramley suggests that they actually went underground, continuing to exert their influence in secret. And he even ties them to the rise of the Hospitallers and the influence of Scottish Freemasonry.
So it's like a historical thriller unfolding across centuries.
Right, it's like this grand conspiracy spanning millennia.
Yeah, and while some of these connections might seem far-fetched, what's really fascinating is how they tap into this very real human fascination with the idea of hidden knowledge and, powerful forces operating behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. It's like we're drawn to these stories.
Yeah.
Because they suggest that there's more to reality than meets the eye.
Right, like we're not getting the full picture.
Exactly, like there are secrets being kept from us.
Yeah, and that's where Valerian's Matrix V comes in. With a truly mind-bending perspective, his central claim is that Earth is like a game, designed by higher dimensional beings to accelerate our spiritual evolution.
Okay, hold on, wait a minute. So you're saying my life, with all its ups and downs, is basically a cosmic video game.
Well, that's the basic premise.
Designed to help my soul level up.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can kind of see where he's going with that. But it's a lot to take in.
It is, and according to Valerian, this game is a lot more complex than we might realize. He introduces this concept of simultaneous incarnations, which means that you as a soul are actually experiencing multiple lives at once in different bodies and time periods.
Whoa, multiple lives all happening concurrently. So there are other me's running around right now.
Exactly. Think of it like you're living multiple parallel lives, each one teaching your soul different lessons and contributing to its overall growth.
Okay, so it's like I'm juggling multiple characters in a video game, each one with its own unique storyline.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. And he contrasts this with sequential incarnations, where souls' experience lives one at a time, like chapters in a book. He suggests that this is more typical of alien civilizations.
So we humans are playing on hard mode, huh? Juggling multiple lives at once. No wonder things can feel so chaotic sometimes.
Right, but there's a method to the madness. He believes that each higher self, which is essentially like the overarching consciousness of all your incarnations, has specific goals for its earthly experiences.
Okay, so my higher self is like my ultimate life coach,
Yeah,
guiding me through all these different lifetimes.
you could say that. And this journey culminates in a final incarnation. This is like the grand finale, where the soul has achieved spiritual maturity and can finally graduate from the game.
Graduate from the game. Wow, that's a big concept. It makes you wonder what happens after that. What does it even mean to graduate?
Yeah, that's a question worth pondering, for sure. It is a good question, and it's interesting how both Bramley and Valerian, despite their different approaches, they kind of converge on this idea that extraterrestrial beings have played a role in shaping human history.
Oh yeah, definitely. But their views on this influence are pretty different. Like Bramley, he paints a pretty dark picture, claiming that this brotherhood of the snake is actually being manipulated by a malevolent alien force that he links to some pretty major historical events, like the American Revolution, even the rise of Nazism.
Right, whereas Valerian offers a more nuanced perspective. He sees Earth as like this challenging training ground, where both positive and negative forces are at work, kind of pushing us towards spiritual growth. And he believes that we're not just passive players in this cosmic game, but we're actually active participants with the power to shape our own destiny.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom according to Valerian. There's hope for us to break free from these negative influences and reach our full potential.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I was getting a little worried there for a second.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Both authors point to the Orion constellation as a significant power center in the universe.
The Orion connection. I've always been fascinated by that constellation. There's something so mysterious and alluring about it. But what exactly are these authors saying about its role in human affairs?
Well, it's not entirely clear, to be honest. Both Bramley and Valerian kind of hint at this complex interplay of forces emanating from Orion. Some benevolent, some not so much. It's almost like they're suggesting that Orion is a cosmic battleground where different factions are vying for influence over humanity's evolution.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
It's like we're caught in the middle of a cosmic tug of war.
Yeah.
But how does this all tie back to Valerian's idea of Earth as a game?
Well, he suggests that the challenges we face in life, whether they're like personal struggles or even global conflicts, they're all part of this grand cosmic game. They're designed to test us, to push us to our limits, and ultimately to help us grow spiritually.
Okay, so it's like we're being thrown into the deep end of the pool over and over again, forced to learn how to swim.
Exactly. And remember, according to Valerian, Earth is a particularly intense training ground because we're experiencing these simultaneous incarnations. Juggling multiple lives at once. Imagine trying to learn how to swim while also learning to ride a bike and play the piano all at the same time.
Oh man, that sounds exhausting. No wonder I feel like I'm constantly running around trying to keep up with everything. But what's the point of all this chaos? What's the end goal of this game?
Well, Valerian suggests that it's about achieving spiritual maturity. He describes this as like balancing our inner masculine and feminine energies, mastering the physical plane, and ultimately becoming aware of our true nature as multidimensional beings.
So it's about becoming more than just physical beings, tapping into those hidden dimensions of ourselves.
Precisely. And he actually has some interesting insights into how certain groups, like organized religion and even the medical establishment, might be unintentionally hindering that process.
Okay, now that's intriguing. What's he saying about these institutions? I wouldn't think of them as being connected to a cosmic game or alien influence.
Well, he argues that they tend to focus on external authority and physical limitations, rather than encouraging us to explore our inner world and tap into our own innate power and wisdom. It's not that these groups are like inherently bad or intentionally trying to suppress us, but their structures and belief systems might be unknowingly serving a manipulative agenda.
So they're like unwitting pawns in this cosmic game? That's a pretty unsettling thought.
It is, isn't it? And Valerian goes even further, suggesting that our very biology might be part of this manipulation. He talks about these Orion DNA commands that are embedded in our genetics, designed to keep us trapped in the Earth game.
Wait, what DNA commands? So you're saying that our genes are somehow programmed to keep us playing this cosmic game, even if we don't want to?
That's Valerian's claim. He suggests that these commands promote materialism, conflict, and conformity. They keep us focused on the external world and prevent us from accessing our full spiritual potential. It's like we're living in a matrix, but instead of being controlled by machines, we're being controlled by our own DNA.
Okay, that is seriously mind-blowing. It makes you question everything. Are any of our thoughts or actions truly our own? Or are we just puppets dancing to the tune of our DNA?
Those are the big questions that Valerian's work raises, and he gets even more controversial when he delves into gender roles and sexuality. He claims that these Orion DNA commands are designed to create conflict between the genders, keeping us locked in a cycle of dominance and submission. He specifically points to an agenda of female domination as a major force shaping human relationships.
Oh, hold on, female domination. I'm not sure I'm following that line of thinking. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah, so he suggests that the Orions manipulated human biology and energetics to create a system where females are inherently more draining on a subtle energetic level, while males are easily addicted to female energy. He sees this as a trap that prevents both genders from achieving their full spiritual potential and perpetuates a cycle of codependency and power struggles.
That's a pretty provocative claim, and definitely one that would spark a lot of debate. But I'm curious to hear more about what he proposes as a solution to this. Do we just need to rewrite our DNA?
He doesn't really get into specific solutions, but he does suggest that true spiritual advancement involves breaking free from these gender-specific limitations and recognizing the inherent equality and interconnectedness of all beings. He believes that by transcending these limiting programs, we can create more harmonious relationships and unlock our true potential as individuals and as a species.
Okay, it's a lot to unpack, that's for sure. And it's definitely challenging some of my assumptions about gender and relationships. But before we get too deep into that rabbit hole, let's bring in our third source, the Wes Panray papers, which offers a completely different take on human origins and the forces at play.
Right. Penry throws a real curveball into the mix, with his claim that the being known as Enki in Sumerian texts is actually Lucifer, the fallen angel. And get this, he believes Enki Lucifer orchestrated the biblical flood to wipe out humanity and start fresh with a more controllable species.
Okay, now that's a twist I wasn't expecting. So we've got two competing narratives here. The Orions manipulating us through DNA commands versus Lucifer using the flood to reset the game board. It's like choosing your own cosmic conspiracy theory.
Haha, it is kind of like that. It's fascinating to see how these different authors, drawing from ancient myths and esoteric knowledge, they weave these elaborate narratives about who's pulling the strings and why. And remember, we're just exploring the ideas presented in these sources. We're not saying any of this is definitively true, but it's definitely food for thought.
Right, exactly. It's all about expanding our perspective and considering possibilities that we might not have encountered before. So what are some of the key themes that emerge from Penry's work?
Well, he introduces this idea of a control system that's been operating on Earth for millennia, designed to keep humanity enslaved and unaware of its true potential. He sees this control system as being orchestrated by Lucifer and his minions, who are essentially waging a cosmic battle against the forces of good, represented by beings from higher realms.
So it's like a cosmic version of good versus evil playing out on Earth, with humanity caught in the crossfire.
That's one way to look at it. And Penry believes that this control system is incredibly pervasive, influencing everything from our education and religious institutions to our financial systems and even our entertainment industry. He suggests that it's all designed to keep us distracted, divided, and ultimately under control.
Man, that's a pretty bleak outlook. It makes you wonder if there's any hope for breaking free from this system.
Well, Penry does offer some hope. He believes that knowledge is power, and that once we understand how this control system operates, we can start to dismantle it from within. He emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, questioning authority, and reclaiming our sovereign power as individuals.
So it's about waking up from this collective slumber and taking back control of our lives.
Exactly. And he also introduces this fascinating concept of Saturn as a projector of a holographic reality. He believes that Lucifer is using this technology to manipulate our perception and keep us trapped in a limited version of the universe.
A holographic reality projected from Saturn. That's wild. So you're saying that what we perceive as reality might not be real at all. It's just an illusion.
That's Penry's claim. He suggests that Saturn is acting like a giant cosmic movie projector, beaming this false reality down to Earth, and we're all unknowingly participating in this grand illusion.
That's a lot to process. It's like someone just pulled back the curtain on The Wizard of Oz, and we're realizing that everything we thought we knew about reality might be a lie.
It's definitely a mind-bending concept, and Penray believes that breaking free from the Saturnian influence is key to spiritual liberation. He talks about reclaiming our sovereign power and recognizing that we are multidimensional beings with the potential to transcend this perceived reality.
Okay, so if Penray's right, how do we escape this holographic projection? How do we break free from this control system?
Well, that's where things get really interesting, and that's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into some practical steps we can take to reclaim our power, disrupt the matrix, and step into a new reality.
I'm ready to unplug, bring on the revelation. Okay, so we've gone through a lot. Secret societies, alien agendas, holographic reality projected from Saturn, even Lucifer orchestrating the biblical flood. It's a lot to take in. So what do we do with all this information? It's one thing to hear these mind-bending concepts, but how do we actually apply them to our lives?
Yeah, that's the key question, right? How do we actually integrate this knowledge and make real changes? Well, both Valerian and Penray offer some clues about how we might navigate this terrain and start reclaiming our power.
Okay, let's start with Valerian.
Yeah.
He talks about disrupting the matrix. But what does that actually mean?
Well, he suggests that those Orion DNA commands, they're operating on a subconscious level, influencing our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors in ways we might not even realize. So step one is like becoming aware of those patterns. Start paying attention to recurring themes in your life, the beliefs you hold, the choices you make.
Right, so it's like asking ourselves, why do I react this way? Or why do I keep attracting these kinds of situations? It's about shining a light on those unconscious programs that might be running the show.
Exactly. And Valerian really emphasizes the importance of cultivating our intuition. He believes that our intuition is like a direct line to our higher self, that wise, multidimensional aspect of ourselves that's not bound by these DNA commands.
So it's like we have an inner compass that can guide us out of this matrix. But how do we access it? I mean, it seems like those Orion DNA commands would be pretty hard to override.
It's definitely a process, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But Valerian suggests practices like meditation energy work, conscious intention setting. These things can help us shift our awareness and start to break free from those limiting programs.
Okay, so it takes some inner work. But what about the external world? Penry talks about this control system that's influencing everything around us. How do we deal with that?
Well, Penray believes that knowledge is key. He says once we see the system for what it is, we can start to make different choices. We can choose to opt out of systems that don't serve us. We can create our own communities. We can focus our energy on what truly matters to us.
So it's not just about changing our internal programming, but also about changing our relationship with the external world, recognizing that our inner and outer worlds are interconnected.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. But both Valerian and Penray emphasize personal responsibility. They believe that each of us has a role to play in creating a new reality. It starts with our own individual choices, but it can ripple outwards and inspire others to do the same.
So we're all connected, each of us contributing to a bigger picture, but it can feel overwhelming. Like, how can we possibly make a difference against such powerful forces?
It's a challenge for sure. But remember, these authors are ultimately offering messages of empowerment. They believe that we are far more powerful than we realize. We have the power to choose to create, to transform.
So it's not about fighting against the system, but about transcending it, creating something new that aligns with our highest vision for ourselves and for humanity.
Exactly. And both Valerian and Penray suggest that this transformation isn't just about personal liberation, but about a collective awakening. They believe that as more and more individuals break free from these limiting programs and reclaim their sovereign power, it'll create a ripple effect that will ultimately transform the entire planet.
It's a beautiful vision, like we're all waking up from a long dream and realizing we're not just characters in someone else's story. We're the authors of our own reality.
And what's really fascinating is that even with their different perspectives, both Valerian and Penray, they seem to be hinting at the same underlying truth. We're not just physical beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're multidimensional beings with vast potential. And the challenges we face here on Earth are ultimately opportunities for growth and expansion.
So maybe all this talk about secret societies and alien agendas and holographic realities, it's just a way of pointing us back to ourselves.
Yeah.
To that spark of divinity within each of us.
Maybe, and maybe the game isn't about winning or losing, but about remembering who we truly are. It's about reclaiming our power, stepping into our purpose, and co-creating a reality that reflects our highest aspirations.
That's a powerful thought. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the unknown, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
I hope they leave with a sense of wonder, a spark of curiosity, and most importantly, a feeling of empowerment. I hope they realize that they're not alone in this journey, that there are forces both seen and unseen supporting their evolution, and that they have the power to create a reality that aligns with their highest aspirations.
That's beautifully said. And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep creating. The truth is out there, and it's waiting to be discovered. Not just in ancient texts or esoteric teachings, but within your own heart and soul.
Trust your intuition, embrace the unknown, and never stop asking questions. You are capable of far more than you might realize, and the universe is conspiring to help you remember who you truly are.
And that's a wrap on another mind-bending deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking Keel, keep growing, and keep shining your light. We'll catch you on the flip side.